All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Yud Zayin, Maseches Nedarim. So yesterday we were talking about that a person mentioned can make a neder legabe a mitzvah on an object because the Torah commands an individual, does not command an object. Therefore, a neder could be chal on an object. However, if he makes a shvuah, right, that he doesn't want to perform a mitzvah, then that is not chal because lo yachel only is tevara. It's only his word, but it can't go against Hashem's word. Fine. So we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines to the bottom. Tes zayin or base. Oh, fine, yeah. All right. A little line after that. Right. Well, you learn over there the source that you were not that you can't make a shvuah on a mitzvah from over here, from lo yachel devara, only his word, not Hashem's word. We learn it somewhere else. We learn from over there. The Tanya is learning a brayso. You might think that a person go ahead and be mevatel a mitzvah. In other words, make a shvuah against the mitzvah. And therefore, if he doesn't go ahead and is if he's not mevatel yachol yechayv. In other words, if he violates his shvuah of not before he says he's not going to go ahead and do mitzvah sukkah, right? So you might think, and he doesn't go ahead and nullify the mitzvah, i.e., performs the mitzvah. You might think he should be chayiv for violating his vow not to do the mitzvah. Tamaloymar. Therefore, it says we bring another pasuk lahara lahete, right? It says there's the pasuk in Vayikra, different pasuk. Now, there's two different types of shvuas. There's a shvuas vitui, shvuas shav, right? Different types of shvuas. The Gemara in Masechah Shvuas goes throughout. Person could swear a rock is a rock. Certain types of different types of shvuas. But anyways, the pasuk says tamalaima lahara lahete, right? As the pasuk says, I'm just reading the pasuk. It says onevesh kisishva levate b'sasayim lahara lahete, right? For good or for bad, l'chol asher yivate adam b'shvuah v'nela mimenu v'uyada v'ashen lachas meila. So it says over there, tamalaima lahara lahete. So it says legabe a shvuah lahara lahete. Just like if he wants to make a shvuah, it's on something that it's only a reshus. In other words, something that is optional or something that he chooses to do, not something he has to do. So to not to do something also has to be something reshus. If he chooses not to do something, it has to be something that it's only an optional thing, not a commanded subject or item, such as a mitzvah. So therefore, just like the optional things, just like the shvuah is to do something, it's only right to that's something which is optional. So to not to do something is also optional, which would exclude yatsa nishba levatos mitzvah. That would exclude to be vatal the mitzvah because the mitzvah is not optional; it's commanded. So therefore, a shvuah would not be chal on a mitzvah. It's only chal on something that you don't have to do. So we see over here, excuse me, that a person cannot go ahead and make a shvuah not to perform a mitzvah. And as opposed to a person who says, I'm not going to go ahead and do a mitzvah, and he ends up doing the mitzvah, he's not nullified the mitzvah, right? That's not chal at all, right? In other words, he wasn't allowed to do it in the first place, so therefore he does not violate any neder. So therefore, a person attempts to go ahead and make a shvuah, not to do a mitzvah, and he ends up doing the mitzvah. He's not chayiv for anything. He's not violated a shvuah because it wasn't chal. So we see over here, this is the source. This is the source, the pasuk of lahara lahete versus lo yachel devara, right? Devara v'lo dvar for shemayim, v'lo chatzei shemayim. So our answer is no. Chad kra lemiftra mikarban shvuah, v'chad lemiftra milav shvuah. One is for the karban. The pasuk of lahara lahete is referring to by the karban over there. A person violates the shvuas bitui there. He's chayiv. I think it's a karban olav yored, or a type of chatas offering, and the other is from the lab of the shvuah of bal yachal devara. So therefore, one is for Malkus, teaches that the one makes such a shvua, he's not chayiv Malkus, and the other is a shvua spitui that is not chayiv a korban, and therefore each one needs their own source. Fine. Now in Mishnah. This is a Geshmak in Mishnah. Yesh neder b'seich neder, ve'ein shvua b'seich shvua. You can have a neder within a neder, right? And but you can't have a shvua on a shvua. What do you mean? Ketzad, how so? Amar Haredi Nazir. A person says Haredi Nazir, right? Which is linked to by Nadar. He says, "Behold, I'm a Nazir. Im Eichel Haredi Nazir Im Eichel." So he says, "I'll be a Nazir if I eat this. I'll be a Nazir if I eat this." Repeats it twice, or repeats it once. Says it twice, right? So Haredi Nazir Im Eichel, Haredi Nazir Im Eichel, v'achal, and then he ate it. So that was he triggered both Naziros. Chayv akol achas v'achas. He's chayv on each and every one. In other words, he went ahead and violated. So therefore, both, if he was, I'm sorry. Right. So chayv akol achas v'achas, and each one he goes ahead. He has the Naziros for that. However, shvush lo'echel.
Don't press anything because it's still processing. You press it again,
But a shvush lo'echel, a person makes a shvua, I will not eat this. It makes another shvua, he makes sure I won't eat meat. Makes another shvua, I won't eat meat. V'achal eino chayiv el achas. It's only chayiv one. So you see, the Naziros is chal al Naziros, but the shvua is not chal on the shvua. So what's going on here? What's the svara? What's the reason? Why is that? Why is Nazirus chal on something but not? So let's see. Zok the Gemara. Now we're going to go ahead and start explaining this Mishnah. Amar Rav Huna. So we're going to have Machlokes in Rav Huna and I believe Shmuel. Amar Rav Huna lo yishanu el da'amar hareini nazir hayom hareini nazir lamachar. He says, if I eat this bread, I'm going to become a nazir today. And then he says, if I eat this bread, I'm going to become a nazir tomorrow. Now, if I become a Nazir today, my 30-day Nazirus starts today. And if I become a Nazir tomorrow, my 30-day Nazirus starts tomorrow. So therefore, in theory, on day one, I'm a Nazir once. The next 29 days is an overlap of the first and second set of Nazirus. And then day 31 is just the last day of the second Nazirus. So according to Rav Huna, it can't be one directly on another. You have to be adding something new to this next Nazirus. That's what makes it chal. That since he's adding an extra day, day 31, therefore we say the Nazirus is chal and Nazirus. Well, Hareini Nazir Hayom, Hareini Nazir Hayom. He says, I eat this bread, I become a Nazir today. If you eat this bread, I become a Nazir today. And chal Naziris on Naziris. It's not chal on Naziris and Naziris. In other words, in this case, we say that since you're not adding anything new, therefore the second Naziris, there is no place for that Naziris to be chal, and therefore it wouldn't work. That was Rav Huna. Shmuel Amar. Shmuel says, Afilu Amar Hareini Nazir Hayom, Hareini Nazir Hayom. Even if he says, if I eat this bread, I'll become a Nazir today. If I eat this bread, I'll become a Nazir today. Then he eats the bread. Chala Nazirus. He has both Nazirus simultaneously at the same time. He's chai for each and every Nazir, so he becomes Tameh. He has to eat for both. When he finishes it up, he has to finish both.
Keep on extending it?
It's not extending it. It's overlapping. What do you mean?
Meaning, let's say in 5 days from now, Bob says again,
you can always do Nazirus. Yeah, I mean, it's a new Nazirus. But over here, that's no Chiddush. That everyone agreed to. The Chiddush over here is according to Shmuel that it could be chal on top of the other, the exact same time period. He's not adding anything new. It's still chal second Nazirus. And therefore, I have the chal Nazirus allowed. So what? It'll bring two, right? He's fulfilled two Nazirus at the end of 30 days. If he fulfills it, there's both at the end of the Nazirus. Both two sets of karbanos.
Yashua says it's two consecutive terms. It's not.
1 second.
According to Shmuel.
Shmuel Amar. Let's see. Shmuel Amar Nazir was it? Nazirus chala Nazirus. The mashal the mizul is after Hagavda Mayna Shtei Nazirus. You're saying consecutive versus chal in the same time.
That's right.
It's 2-1.
Chal and
That would
Naziris.
be 2 months as opposed to Durham.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the Ran here. Yeah.
Overlap, to then show if you overlap either.
See, the Ran really doesn't. The Ran doesn't get in there. I just see the rush.
Yeah.
No, that's that. No, there's no. I'm just saying that there's very little Ran on it. Hareini Nazir Hayom. Don't say yeah, Chal Nazir. So Shlosh B'yam V'chiyam is Hareini L'Macha now. At least. All right, no. If it says, it says. I mean, what's the? What does he? Where does he bring down?
I'll still tell you to jump off that right there.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah. My school says so. It's a school.
Like 14.
It's a school for flying.
All right.
It froze the middle of
All right, fine. All right. That's what I see. All right. That's what it says. I just the Ran doesn't say anything about it. He just says Chal Nazir, Chal Naziris, right? The Naziris, Chal al Naziris. That's what he says. Mashli ben Nazir lahazir nafkule b'chiyah gavna made him shtei Naziris. Fine. What?
They're consecutive zeros.
Consecutive. Fine.
So again, why the KC 4-1 to be consecutive?
Because he's adding an extra day. That's why I thought it was Chal. Right. All right. I hear. So let's see.
Keep on trucking.
Well, the Rav Huna, according to Rav Huna, who said that the way you have it is you have to go ahead and add on, right? In other words, you have to at least add a day. Rav Huna, Adatana in Shvua b'sech Shvua, but why, according to Rav Huna, did the Mishnah want to give a rule that in Shvua b'sech Shvua? That sometimes the nether is chal in the nether, and sometimes the nether is not chal in the nether. Hareini nazir hayom, hareini nazir labachar, yesh nether b'sech nether. Then you could have one within the other, and b'sech nether. Hareini nazir hayom, hareini nazir hayom. If he says identical, then ein nazir b'sech nether. Right. So the Gemara says kasha. So indeed, it would be a kasha of Huda because why differentiate between this nether and shvua? You can differentiate within the nether itself. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work.
So what's he doing? He's making it. He's accepting 2 Naziros.
Well, that's the case. The Mishnah, he says Hareini Nazir Hayom, and is Hareini Nazir. The question is he saying Hareini Nazir Hayom twice? Or is he saying Hareini Nazir Hayom, Hareini Nazir Lamachar? Rav Huna says it only works in the case of Hareini Nazir Hayom and Hareini Nazir Lamachar. Then you would have 2 cases that overlap. Right? They would overlap 29 days. It would just because the other one starts, day 1 starts tomorrow, the second one.
Oh,
And according to Shmuel, no, it could even be Hareini Nazir Hayom, Hareini Nazir Hayom, both of them work.
and they're
No, but
consecutive.
then it's comparable. It's comparable. When you say Yom Hayom, it means it's consecutive.
L'chayra, yeah, l'chayra. I'm just looking at the website. I'm just looking, fine.
That's according to
Yeah. Okay, fine. So yeah, if you go back in the Mishnah, right? I know. I'm just looking at the Rana Mishnah. Hareini Nazir, the Chayiv Shtei Naziros, Mayna Shleishim, maybe Karban, the Chayzim on Shleishim Yom, maybe Karban, and Afklei Gorman Nazir the Hazir. Okay, fine. All right, yeah. Should look to the English. All right, fine, very good. Top line, Yud Zayin base. Tanan, Yesh Nether B'Seich Nether. We have a nether within a nether, and however, there is no Shu B'Seich Shua. Now, Hey Chidami, what's the case there? So now remember, if we're comparing Nadarim to Nadarim or Nazir, right, Nadarim to Shavua, then it have to be basically similar cases, or else you're comparing apples and oranges. Now, so what's the case of a nether? We say it's Chal al Nether. Hareini Nazir Hayom, Hareini Nazir Lamachar Dukvase. So similarly, what's the case? Gabi Shavua. Shlo Eichel Te'enim. Right? It's 2 different things. So the guy makes a shvua, I won't eat figs. And then he says, I won't eat grapes. Why would that not work? Of course that should work, right? It's not covering the same exact thing. One's covering figs, one's covering grapes. Ella, what's the case? shvua. Kigayin the Omar shvua shelo eichel te'enim. The guy makes one shvua. I will not eat figs. The Chazar the Omar shvua shelo eichel te'enim. And then he says, then he makes another one. I won't eat figs. The Kvase Gabi Nazirus Hechidam. So what's the case by Nazirus Hechidam? The Omar Hareini Nazir Hayom Hareini Nazir Hayom. So it must be the similar case is if you're it's figs and figs. So this should be Hareini Nazir Hayom Hareini Nazir Hayom. Identical case. One completely overlaps the other
When
one.
a person makes a shvua, there's no time period that it's attached to, as opposed to the
Okay.
zeros.
All right.
So I'm not gonna eat figs, I'm not gonna eat figs.
I make a shul. I'm not going to eat figs. And then he makes another shul. I'm not going to eat figs. Is the second one challah or not?
No, it does
It
not.
didn't do anything.
What do you mean he didn't do anything? He just made another shul. He just made a shul not to eat
It's a
figs.
meaningless shul, this doesn't extend anything.
So why does it?
One's already house, and the second one can't.
That's
It's attached to anything.
when it is attached to anything.
I hope,
You're saying because there's nothing new being asked. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
That's what the Gemara is pointing out. That's what the Gemara is. So if that's the case by shvua, ain't shvua chala al shvua, meaning if it's not covering anything new, it doesn't work. So let's say Naziris should be the equal case where I'm going to become a Nazir today, and then he makes another Naziris, I'm going to become a Nazir today. Why does that work? Why is that different than shvua? That's what the Gemara wants to know. We're trying to figure out the case of where the difference is.
because it's by the zero.
So let's see.
Extending it, whereas here.
No, but it's not extending. That's apples to oranges. If you're not adding anything extra by the shvua and you're saying it doesn't work, then you shouldn't. But we're saying nadarim does work. Then it should be the same case where you're not adding anything new by the nadarim, and that should be the same thing.
But it goes 1 day longer. That's the 1 day longer.
That's a different case. That's the other case. This is the case where it goes hayom hayom, right? Look at the word, right? It says no. This is a good question. So because of the kvas say somebody gabi nazirus. Hey chidami, what should be the case? Damar hareini nazir hayom hareini nazir hayom. That should be the equal case, and that case doesn't work according to Rav Huna. Viktani yesh neder b'seich neder. So kasha Rav Huna. It should be a kasha on Rav Huna. So I'm going to look at Rav Huna masnisen. No, we have to understand a case like this. This is how you can understand it better. The Amar Hareini Nazir Hayom, Hareini Nazir Lamacha. The case of the Nazir is I'm a Nazir today. And then he says, I'm going to become a Nazir tomorrow. So therefore, there's 31 days adding something new. Okay, so what's the case by Shvua where he's adding something, quote unquote, new, but it doesn't work? So the Amar Hareini Nazir Hayom, Hareini Nazir Lamacha, the Kvasei Gav Shvua, the Amar Shlo Eichel Teinim, he says, I will not eat figs. The Chazar, the Amar Shvua, Shlo Eichel Teinim v'anavim. I will not eat figs and grapes. Delay challah. That would work because that's actually something new. But over here, it's completely over there. But so over here, when the guy says, "I'm not going to eat figs," and then he says, "I'm not going to eat figs and grapes," okay? So then
It's a different shvua.
it's a different
It's a
shvua,
very different
but
shvua.
that doesn't work.
Correlated with the first one.
But we're saying that doesn't work by the case of shvuas.
It's not really new. It's just it's adding on.
No, it's a
Part.
different
Right.
shvua. It's a two different.
Right. So
ingredients.
let's see. So it's machlokes. So let's see. So over there, that doesn't work. So that doesn't work. Rabba says the exact same case. Person makes the shul. I'm not going to go out and eat figs. Then he makes another shul. I won't eat figs and grapes. The achal te'enim, he eats figs. So he's violated the first one. The hifish carbon. Then he separates a carbon, right, for violating that first vow. The chazar v'anavim. And then he eats grapes. Now remember, the first one was just figs. The second one, he had to eat figs and grapes, both of them. Now, not at the same time, but both of them. He has to eat both. In other words, if he just ate grapes or he just ate figs, he wouldn't violate the shvua. He wouldn't have to be a carbon. So, but once he separates the carbon, once he goes ahead and separates his mafresh the carbon for eating the figs, he's basically taken that action away as if he hasn't done it because he's already mafresh a carbon for it. So now when he eats grapes, it's like he ate grapes alone. And therefore, one second, and therefore, and he can't be a korban for chatzis shir. But what do you see over here? Alma, heichad amar shvush lo'echa teinim, v'chaz v'amar shvush lo'echa teinim v'anavim, miga dechal shvu al anavim, chalinami al teinim. It would be chal on both. since the shvua, there's something added new to the second shvua. He adds in grapes. So therefore, the shvua is chal and also grapes and the figs. So you see over here in this case that in the first case when he's mafresh and nether, he's mafresh a korban for the figs. So he takes the figs out. In other words, it's like he didn't do the action. But if he didn't do it, right? If he was a mafresh, right? And let's say, so then we see that the shvua was chal because it was only on a technicality. He couldn't bring a shvua for the second one because it wasn't figs and grapes together. But if he would have eaten figs and grapes together, he would have been chai for a second korban. So what do you see over here? You see that the second shvua is indeed chal according to Rabbah. So Gemara answers, Rav Huna leisvir like Rabbah. Einachinam, you're right. Rabbah holds 100% that's chal. And over there, the only reason why you don't bring a korban for the second shvua is not because ain't shvua chal shvua. That actually would work in this case. The only reason is because it's chati shir, because he only ate grapes. He didn't eat figs again with grapes, and therefore he only be chayiv. He would not be chayiv the second one. But other than that, we see that it's chal, and Rav Huna would actually disagree. He'd say no, in such a case, ain't shvua chal al shvua. Meisvei misha nazar shtei naziros. A person who's nazar shtei naziros. Manas Rishayna. So a person is makabel upon himself, right? At one time, I'm gonna be a nazir, right? Twice, right? I said to myself 2 naziros. So basically, that's gonna be 2 in a row. So that one's right. That one everyone agrees is 2 in a row. Manas Rishayna. Then he counts the first one, the hifish korban, and then he separate. Then let's say he set aside a korban for the first one. Then what happened? The nishal aleha. And then after he finished it, he did all the hard work for 30 days. The nishal aleha. And then he got a shaila, right? He matered his naziris, right? He matered his naziris and then they matered it. In other words, the first naziris is, you didn't need to do it, right? I did 30 days for nothing. The nishal aleha. Also lo shniya b'rishayna. You know what? Since he had 2 naziris, because he says right? So therefore, even the first one was lifted, the second one still worked. The second one was good.
In other words, what the Chacham.
He said Hareini Nazir Hayom,
No,
and then he says Hareini Nazir Hayom, and then he does his 30 days,
Right.
and now he really has to do another
He goes-
30 days. But he goes to a Rav, and he matter the first one, and he matter the first one. So now the 30 days that he said counts as the second one. But what do you see over here? That both the Naziris was chal al Naziris, even in the case of Hayom. So Hechidami, what's the case? If you say it's talking about a case of he says, behold, I'm a Nazir today and I'm a Nazir tomorrow. Am I also Lashni B'Rishayna? Why would the 30 days that he just sat count towards the first one? He still has another day to do. In other words, if we're talking about a case of he sat 30 days, let's just say it's 31 days, January, does January 1st and January 30th, right? So he says on January 1st, Hareini Nazir Hayom, Hareini Nazir Lamachar. And this is the case we're talking about. And therefore, on January 30th, he says, you know what, whatever he was mati, what the base did, they matered his Naziros, his first one. Even though he already did the time, right? So he doesn't have to be the karbanos. So now we said, okay, the karbanos you set aside on the 30th will count for your second Naziros. So how can it count for your second Naziros? He's not done yet. He still has another day. So Elo, rather, what must be the case? We must be talking about a case where he says on January 1st, I'll become a Nazir today. And then 2 minutes later, he says, I'm going to become a Nazir today. So we see, and then if he matters the first one, he still has the second one. So you see that the Naziris can be Chal Naziris, even in a case of where they directly overlap. It's all 30 days are on the same days. V'tiyuftan should be a Bam Kasha and Rav Huna. So our answer is low. Li'aylam hareini nazir hayayim hareini nazir lamachar. Really, talking about a case where he says, I'm a nazir today, I'm a nazir tomorrow. So we said that the 30 days that you just sat, instead of it being the first one, that counted as as your second naziros. What does it mean? He says, except for the last day. In other words, yes, it is the 30th, And those days count for your second Naziros, but you still have one more day. In other words, you can include the 29 days. So therefore, we're talking about a case of where it didn't directly overlap. There was an extra day. And that's the reason why it was Chal, the Fi Rafuna, Inami, or you can give another teretz, Kigayin Shekibel, Shtei Naziros, Babasachas. Basically, he says, Haredi Nazir, 2 Naziros. In other words, he doesn't say one, and then two makes another statement. Rather, Haredi Nazir, 2 Naziros, and that the Kuli Alma, everyone agrees, would Chal one after the other. All right, we'll stop here. Sunday.